I want you to think of a family in which everybody knows something important except for one person. Maybe it's a hidden debt, maybe it's a family illness, maybe it's an adoption that was never discussed. The people keeping this secret convince themselves that they're protecting someone, when in reality, over time, the secrecy creates mistrust, anxiety, and resentment. Psychologists have found that keeping important secrets places a real mental toll on people, increasing both stress and anxiety. Michael Slepian, in his 2024 article, The New Psychology of Secrecy, defines secrecy as an intent rather than an action, and says that concealing one's secrets and thinking about them often can bring increased feelings of shame, isolation, uncertainty, and inauthenticity. Think back to this family that I mentioned at the start. If secrecy can slowly break apart one family, what happens when the people keeping a secret are the ones running an entire country? Now, obviously, I'm not saying that the government should never keep secrets. If our military is planning an operation overseas or making decisions in wartime, I don't think that information needs to be posted online in the moment. There is room for some classification within the government. However, somewhere along the way, secrecy stopped becoming the exception and it became the default. This is where our problem lies. During the Vietnam War in the 1960s, many Americans believed that they were being told the full truth about the war. They were led to believe that the Americans were winning the war and we were super close to getting out of this gruesome, gruesome war. However, most of us know that this wasn't entirely the case. Daniel Ellsberg, the man who leaked the Pentagon Papers, revealed that the president and many other government officials privately knew that the war was going terribly, while publicly stating something very different. In his book published in 2002, titled Secrets, a Memoir of Vietnam and the Pentagon Papers, he talks about how secrecy can even be used to coerce the American people. What many people don't know is that the government classifies an absurd amount of documents every year, with one scholar, Timothy Erickson, in a 2005 article titled Building Our Own Iron Curtain, The Emergence of Secrecy in the American Government, saying that even conservative estimates of the number of pages already classified and more than 25 years old are well up into the billions. That's billions with a B. This means that the majority of what the government does, even right in front of our eyes, gets classified and kept secret for as long as the people in those agencies want. This is problematic because a democracy depends on trust, and trust doesn't come from secrecy. It comes from accountability. James David, in his paper from 2013 titled Can We Finally See Those Records? An Update on the Automatic Systematic Declassification Review Program, put it this way: a democratic society is grounded in the informed participation of its citizenry. If citizens aren't fully informed on what's happening in their government, they can't vote intelligently, they can't challenge bad or misleading policies, and most importantly, they can't hold leaders accountable for what they do. What happens to a person in power when they're allowed to keep everything that they do secret? Who's there to hold them accountable? What do you think happens when anything questionable or dangerous a person can do can just be swept under the rug, never to be heard of again? I do want to point out that there are a few government agencies that are seeking to combat this. One of these is called the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or the NGA. Now, the NGA realized that it was classifying far more documents than it was really necessary, and instead of just assuming that everything should be kept secret, they began requiring officials to justify what was being classified by following a simple guidebook. They also made it easier for the public to gain access to these records should they have any valid reason to see them. Now, imagine if every government agency were required to follow these same guidelines. Now, let's return to the family I talked about in the beginning. Let's imagine that this secret that was being kept, it gets out. Imagine there's a conversation that might be painful, tears might be even shed, and there might be difficult questions asked. But finally, everybody knows the truth. Families become healthier when unnecessary secrets disappear. And here's the kicker: democracies do too. Transparency isn't about sacrificing our safety. It's about making sure that the people who hold the most power above us are held accountable to their citizens, who are the ones directly giving them that power. Because in the end, trust